Well, welcome to the podcast. So, as you can see, it's all professionally done with an actual microphone and the headphones. I've even got lighting as well. I mean,
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, you'll probably look at it and go, "This is cheap shit that I'm using here," but it's all worth it for the views.
There you go. I mean, as long as you can get yourself illuminated, that's the best thing, isn't it?
That's
So, yeah, so I'm confused. Are we starting right now?
Start whenever, mate. If you're free now, we can start now.
Oh, no, sorry. It's just I've never done this before, so I'm a bit confused. But no, if we're not on air right now, then that's all right. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we could we can start now. Fuck it, I can't be asked. Have you done podcasts before?
No. This is my very first time.
Oh, I popped your cherry for you. How nice. Basically, normal podcasts, they'd have a structure that'd be very interview based. But on a comedy podcast like this, you can say whatever you like. You can swear. You can do whatever you want. Just talk however you feel. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. You can even take your top off if you like. Whatever makes you comfortable, just do it.
Well, I usually get paid for stuff like that, but maybe if it goes well, then I might end up changing my mind.
I tell you probably make fuck all from this one. So, but we do our best. So how you been, anyways? How's film treating you in lockdown?
It's been good. I mean, first 12 weeks, I was making films pretty much weekly, so I made about 12 short films during that time. I actually made a 5-minute short film during that time as well.
Yeah.
Some personal things happened. So between June until about mid-July, I just didn't do anything because certain things going on. I just thought, you know what, I don't have the energy right now just to make anything. So I'm just going to, just let things settle for a bit.
Yeah.
And now I'm working with 23 actors and we're doing lockdown monologues with them. So I'm just getting a lot. Yeah. So just finished a couple recently, a couple of actors that I worked with. And I've got a few more starting tomorrow, so that'll be pretty busy, really. It's going to keep me pretty busy for the next few weeks, or a couple of months even. So, yeah.
So it's all go.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So you've kept yourself busy through this whole lockdown period?
Pretty much. I mean, I just felt like, you know what, if I have a routine and just stick to it, then that should stave off the boredom. And for the most part, it has, actually. It's been pretty good, I think. Just being able to give yourself some purpose, just being able to say, you know what, this is what I'm doing today. I think it's important,
Yeah.
Most people always say, oh yeah, money's the thing that's going to make me happy. Well, actually, no, feeling useful is the thing that makes people happy the most. So
it's very true. Yeah, I mean, people who made all that money, they were doing something that felt useful to themselves to actually make all that fortune. And it's all well and good making money, but if you've got no purpose behind it, it becomes a bit superficial, really, in many ways.
Absolutely. I mean, well, they do these tests on a lot of lottery winners. And have like a system afterwards. So it's not just a case of, oh, here you go, here's your money, live your best life. They check in now and again, because beforehand, like a lot of these lottery winners, they were spending their money like nobody's business, and they were actually ruining their own lives. Because, well, I mean, another psychological study they did, they found that once you reach a certain level, like once you reach a plateau where you don't have to worry about the bills, where you don't have to worry about, when your next paycheck's coming in or anything like that, where that's just an afterthought.
Yeah.
They found extra money doesn't actually make you any happier. That's why when people always complain about CEOs, oh, they get so much money. Yeah, but that's only going to keep you happy for so long. They're doing it. First of all, like the amount of work that a CEO does is just insane. You're talking about 80-hour work weeks. You're talking about, you're talking about people that don't even have a life. They don't have families. Like all they do is work all the time. Jeff Bezos. I mean, yeah, his company's run by, it's not the best place to work. I've heard horror stories, but I mean, that guy's working all the time.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, really, like, for what, $100 million? Like, come on. No, but yeah, I'm not saying that they're all moral and upstanding citizens, because under the current situation, they're clearly not. But yeah, I mean, you can't say that a lot of them haven't earned their money, unless you know Donald Trump. But that's a different conversation.
We could delve into that later on. But you could tell us a little bit about yourself, mate. I mean, like, you know, you work in film. What made you interested in film? What kind of things inspired you? What got you into it?
It's a good question.
Thank
Well,
you.
I mean, I was always a creative person. I was always a creative person anyway. As a kid, I was always like drawing and doing artsy stuff. I was a huge movie fan. Like, I would watch the same movie over and over and over again. Like, I'd spend most of my time just watching films and playing
Yeah.
video games and all sorts. So the creative spark was always there. I think for me, the idea of becoming a filmmaker really started with Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember watching that, and it was incredible. I must have been about 11, 12 years old when it was out.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at the screen, and it's just like, someone dreamt this, someone imagined this, you know, like it just hit me in such a way. It's like, I could do this. Like, I could actually dream and fantasize and imagine stuff and then just put it on the screen. So that kind of sparked the interest for me at such a young age. I mean, it stayed there, you know, especially in terms of just telling stories, but I don't think I really developed it until college.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't until college where I actually started doing stuff for my A-level course, so media studies. Just got a camera, did something, and I thought, you know what, I want to keep this going, you know.
Yeah.
Went to uni for 3 years. That was fucking terrible, because that was 3 years wasted. Yeah, it was just such a waste of money. If I could get the money back, I would, but it was just, basically you had like people teaching you that weren't really filmmakers themselves, trying to tell you the best way to do this. And
yeah,
it was just ridiculous. But it wasn't until, I think, after I graduated that I realised, you know what, I've got to start learning this. I've got to start picking up all the information that I just did not pick up at uni. So for the next 2 years, I just went around the country, you know, as a runner, which is like beginner's level. Basically getting people teas and coffees.
Yeah.
You up after them and just learning. And I worked on so many shows. I worked on Britain's Got Talent, worked on a couple of music videos, worked on X Factor, worked on The Apprentice, quite a few things. And that was just 2 years hustling until eventually I got into traineeship.
Yeah.
Fresh Meat program is, I don't know if you viewers are going to know what that is, but it's a Channel 4 program, sitcom.
Which one is it?
Sorry? Fresh Meat is with...
oh, I know Fresh Meat. That's the one with Jack Whitehall.
That's right. And by the way, at the rap party, I fucking outdanced him. I danced him off the dance.
Jack Whitehall.
And I outdrank him as well, yeah. So
that's your claim to fame right there.
Pretty much, I can drink and dance better than Jack Whitehall. So if I ever get paid for anything, it should be that.
Mate, you should put that on your CV, mate. You know, on your LinkedIn profile as well. Just say, yeah, you can drink and out dance Jack Whitehall.
Yeah, that's it. Just embarrassing A-list stars and drinking enough where people just don't want to be around you anymore.
Yeah. Now, I remember I was watching, what's that? Is it First Dates? And you were on that as well, weren't you? Was it First Dates?
Yeah, I was in the background for that. Yeah,
because I was watching it with my other half, and we are just watching this date, and then suddenly you popped up, and I was like, I didn't know he applied to this.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually. Well, it's funny because when I was doing my Forerunner days, I actually worked backstage as a logger. So basically, I was writing everything during the interview stage, and I wrote it all down. Got paid for the day. You know, went home. You know, which was pretty standard because as a freelancer, you're working from job to job.
Yeah.
But then I got an email saying, "Oh, we're looking for people in the background on First Dates," and I just went, "Yeah, fuck it, why not?" So I signed up to it. I went on, and it was all right. I mean, she was so nervous with the cameras that I never really got a proper date out of it. But
well, what can you do, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much, it was pretty much like support.
Yeah.
Listen, I was pretty much like a guidance counselor at that point, saying, just calm down, just breathe, it'll be okay. You know, I'd get another drink, that kind of thing.
Sounds like a normal date to me. That does.
Yeah. Well,
just calm down. No, that sounds a bit bad, actually.
You know what? I've got problems with Harvey Weinstein, man. I'm just trying to avoid that area right now.
Well, you guys in film.
We pretty much invented the casting couch, yeah. So. See, like, it's so bad because like people right now we have to be very careful.
Oh, you got to be careful about everything, yeah.
Yeah, there's a thing called an intimacy coach, which is now
what's that?
So basically, an intimacy coach is someone who specialises in anything that's intimate, like a love scene or kiss or anything like that. And she's basically there to make sure that both the performers are consenting, both of them are doing what they need to do, but also that they're both comfortable, so nobody's being taken advantage of. And that's something I'm not 100% for or against. I mean, I do have this mindset that, we're all adults, I don't think we should be baby, but at the same time, we're there to create, for lack of a better word, we're there to create a safe space.
Yeah.
And we need people to feel comfortable with each other when they're doing certain things, so I don't know, maybe I'm being antiquated, maybe I think that's the right way, but, a lot of programs, a lot of films have actually implemented that, and it's worked well. So,
I suppose nowadays you have to be in a way. I mean, you'd think that they both consented because they both accepted the role. They both signed up to it. But then, judging by, good old Weinstein and everything, I mean, it didn't take as long to get onto that topic. And it's, I think nowadays you just got to, and also I think now you've got to be careful what you say as well around certain people.
Yeah, of course. Well, the thing is that I think with filmmaking, I'm not going to lie to you, like it is like a big family. If you're around the right people, it's so much fun. It is a blast to do.
Yeah.
And it can be great, but you have to remember that health and safety and people making sure that they're not being forced to do anything that they don't want to do. I think that's really important. I think for me, morality is important in this anyway.
Yeah.
Like for example, if I was to make a film with a nude scene, like I've never made a film with a nude scene, never really felt the need to. Like, in terms of storytelling, I just can't fit it in. I'm not prudish, I just can't fit it in anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
well,
there you go. Yeah, I'll tell you right. Well. I didn't even do that on purpose, by the way. It just slipped out.
Slipped out. Hey, lads.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the morality, like if I was to do that, I would basically write down it during the audition process to advertise because this is going to require a nude scene. That's the first thing. Just to let them know, right, this is going to require nudity. It is important to the story. Actually, prior to that, the first thing I'd ask myself is nudity or a sex scene, is it important to the story I'm telling?
Yeah.
Because that's going to trump everything else. It's like, if it's not necessary, then it's just titillation just for the sake of it. If it is necessary, then great. Now I'll have to go put the work in to make sure that everyone's comfortable. So make sure in the audition, make sure in the advert, people know that this is going to require nudity. In the audition itself, you remind the actor that, this is going to require nudity. Are you comfortable doing this?
Yeah.
They give their consent, and that's great. Fantastic. Then from there, obviously, whether I'd get an intimacy coach or not, I think more likely I would. Only because I lack experience in that area in terms of on camera, of course. But I would.
You lack experience in intimacy, is it?
Yeah, Jesus. Like, I'm just scared of commitment in general. So there you go. But no wonder I'm fucking hell.
That's showbiz.
Yeah, well, there you go. But I mean, the other thing I've got to do is make sure that if they're on set, that they're comfortable with just the layout. Anyway, just like what they have to go through.
Yeah.
And obviously, on the day, there's something called a closed set.
Yeah.
So that means people on set, only the most important people that actually needs to be there should be there when it comes to a nude scene. Because
Yeah.
for actors, for acting in general, it is such a vulnerable thing to do. You
Okay.
know, most people think, oh, you're just mate pretending it's, oh,
Yeah.
you're a fantasy, whatever.
Yeah.
Partly true, but it's really, especially if you want to get a really good performance from an actor,
Mm.
it's really asking them to be emotionally vulnerable for you.
Mm.
That's not easy. I mean, especially people that are British, especially if you're a man, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, how comfortable are guys or anyone just comfortable being emotionally vulnerable in front of their friends, even their best
Exactly.
friends?
Yeah, it's a true.
Not
It's
easy.
a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that is now you're asking an actor to do that. Well, a whole group of people who are essentially strangers staring at them, that's going
Mm.
to be scary, even harder. And then now you're asking them to be naked, and that's like that's like 15-fold, 10-fold.
Yeah.
You know, like their nerves are going to be shot. So I would say in that situation, you call for a closed set. So that means only the people that absolutely have to be there should be there. So the director,
Yeah.
who was director, absolutely should be there. You know, they're looking to you for feedback, but they're also looking to make sure that they've got someone who can look after them. And as a director, you've got a duty of care. You've got to look after them, make sure that they've got an environment where they can play and be creative, but also make sure that they're not being too harshly judged. So
Mm.
as a director, you need to be there. Someone operating the camera, someone doing the sound if the sound's necessary for that scene, and that that's it really. I mean, anybody else that doesn't need to be there, that's it. You're off set now. It's closed set. You're off
Yeah.
because you don't want people just looking in, especially like a 18-year-old runner who's thinking, oh, maybe I'll get to see.
Mm.
Uh, so I'm blanking on the name now, but maybe I'll get to see so and so naked. But it's
Yeah.
just it is one of those things where you don't just blag it. Like not only are you going to cause an uncomfortable environment, you're probably going to make a shit film as well, and
Yeah.
people are likely not going to want to work with you. That's all.
Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah, it's a very good point you've made for all, because I think when people just watch films, if you're not part of it, you don't consider all those elements in there. That what the actor's going through, what they're feeling, what the director's having to plan and everything. I suppose that you don't, because I think when you're just watching it, you just think, oh, they just get to it, don't they? But when you don't realize when you're actually in the nature of the beast, there's a whole other aspect that goes to it.
well, absolutely. I mean, the amount of preparation and planning that you need to get into just making a film, it's insurmountable. Like,
Yeah.
especially if you're a director. I mean, most people think that as a director, you're there just to boss people around. Like, oh, you do
Yeah.
this and you do that, and it's not that simple. I mean, as a director, you're essentially you are leading, you are the boss.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. I mean, a lot of directors, a lot of filmmakers, they tend to dance around that
Mm.
only because people want to be really nice, and
Yeah.
which is good. It's nice to be nice, but
Yeah.
you're essentially you're the boss. You're there to make the final decision, and you're there more importantly than anything. You're there to tell the story. So that requires you to know the story that you're telling, making sure that this is a story that you're actually passionate about making. There's no point in making a film if you wouldn't watch it yourself.
Yeah.
Making sure you've got the right people, making sure there's different elements like you've got the right actors, but being able to motivate them and communicate with them in a way where you can get the
Yeah.
best performances from them, being able to choose the different shots, shot listing, color theory, being able to choose the right locations, being able to even make sure the right sound is being used as well. So
Yeah.
does it music? Is it diegetic, meaning is it sound that actually comes from the place that you're shooting in, or you're going
Yeah.
to add that later? It's a lot of work and it requires a lot of preparation. But I'll be honest, if you love this, really love this, it's worth it. But if you
Yeah.
don't, you're better off doing something else.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those that I think if you do anything creative, really,
Yeah.
that with me with stand-up comedy as well. It's like if you love it, you don't really care about the fact that you might have to travel God knows how many hours every day, that you might have to get up at this time, have to do this, you might have to do that. You don't really. It's like when we because we've worked together. A lot of people might not know this. on the 1448 Theatre Festival,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
where we were both out of our comfort zones because you were doing theatre for the first time and I was doing scripts for the first time because I came from a novel background. And that was because people there were passionate about what they were doing. And it's, because, what is it? As the writers, which was me, we didn't get much sleep. And so we were up until, I was up until about, I think the script that we worked on, I think I was up until about 4 a.m. writing that. And and I didn't do that, if I wasn't passionate about it, I wouldn't have done any of that. But because of the passion, you do it. And then you took that script and had to turn it into something golden. I mean, obviously you had a very good script to work with, but, you had to direct and do all your acting stuff as well.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think the most important thing most people, like, in terms of, like, creative elements like this, is that it does require collaboration. I mean,
yeah.
There's no point in trying to bullshit your way into stardom. Fake it to yeah, that just does not work. I think people will smell it on you. You know, so it's better. I think sometimes humility is important, or even collaboration. I mean, just to say, you know what, I'm not quite sure about this. Let's work on this together.
Yeah.
Or just to go, you know what, I'm a bit stuck here. Maybe if you could help me out. I think. Well, a great example, actually. I'll use a film example. Christopher Nolan said this best. He said, if you work with an actor, just be honest with them. He said, because if you need to shoot next to a window, which creates a lot of great natural lighting. Like, I don't know how clued up your viewers are, but if you get if you can get natural lighting, it's easier just to shoot next to a window.
Yeah.
If you tell an actor, oh, I think your character would be. They're great students of human behavior. They're going to call you out on your bullshit. They're going to, and that's just going to create unnecessary friction.
Yeah.
It's easier just to say, you know what, it's easier for us to set up this scene right here, only because we're getting more natural lighting. I can't think of a reason for your character to be here, but if you could come up with something that would really help out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's surprising, isn't it? But I think that just goes in, like, you don't have to have all the. I mean, you should know the story. You should be an expert. Yeah. You don't have to have all the answers all the time. I mean, you can delegate.
No, that makes a lot of sense. What you said there. Also, another thing that interests me about you, strangely, is because you do work in film and everything, and it's not typical to see a British, Asian, Indian person doing stuff like that. We shouldn't be doing things like film, comedy, or anything. We should be accountants right now, or doctors. But we thought we'd rebel. And have you ever got any stick at all? Have you got anything like, any people, especially within our particular community, saying like, "Oh, you do film? What the bloody hell is that?" Have you ever had anything like that at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously with the elders and stuff, I mean, they don't get it, they don't understand it, and often if they do take an interest, they think it's Bollywood. Majority of the time, it's usually like, oh, well, how do you make money off of that? And well, I mean, the best way to make money out of it is just to dig a great big hole in your garden and just dump all your money in there. It's a fucking bad investment. Don't think. I know too many people that have quit thinking that this is like a money-making thing, and it really isn't. It's famine or feast. But I'll tell you a personal story. It never happened in terms of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Now, I actually came back to my runner days. It was on a set of Britain's Got Talent, and I was there the first day. I think this was Manchester? It was one of the tours that we're doing. They have something called a producer's tour.
Yeah.
So basically, this is like the show before the show. So
they're
there to audition everyone to see who's good enough to actually make it onto the actual show itself, and who's bad enough where people can laugh at them and make fun of them. So this is everything before the cameras come up. So I remember the first day I go in, I meet the people that are running this, and they're at the desk, they're filling out forms and stuff. And I was given a certain call time, so everyone was there a little bit earlier than me because that
Yeah.
was their call. So I arrive and I told them like, well, I'm here to work. How can I help? And
Yeah.
they barely look at me. They, well, yeah, just make sure all this is cleared up.
Yeah.
There was bottles and sweets and stuff just laying around. I'm like, okay, fine. I see a bin liner, pick it up, and I start putting it in, right? And I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, there's nowhere to put this. Well, okay, I'll just put not around it, and I'll just put it at the side.
Yeah.
And I said to them like, okay, anything else you'd like me to do? They're like, no, we haven't got anything for you to clean. I stood there for a second, and I said to them, I'm here. I said to them, I'm here to work today. I'm one of the runners.
Yeah.
And they go, oh right, okay, all right, okay, yeah, just sign here. Right, here's a t-shirt. Just get yourself ready. Yeah, you'll be joining them.
Oh wow.
I was thinking, yeah, that's a bit odd. It's weird. So I put the t-shirt on, get myself signed up, and I'm making my way into one of the meeting rooms.
Yeah.
As I'm walking, the place that this is being held is in a big hotel.
Yeah.
As I'm walking, I noticed some of the porters there were like me. They were Asian.
Yeah.
They thought,
Oh.
oh, yeah. So that wasn't very nice. But when they say there's issues within the industry in terms of film and television with diversity, they're not fucking lying. Like,
No.
yeah. And for me, I feel lucky in that I've heard much worse stories where I've heard directors who are black or Asian
Yeah.
being mistaken for the exact same thing that I was mistaken for. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot needs to be done, and I think diversity schemes are great and everything, but it only does so much. Going back to fresh meat, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was working there was a guy that was working with. Weren't doing the same job. He was actually one of the working in catering,
Yeah.
but he'd been in this industry for 30 years at that point. And he was sitting down with me, and he was saying like this industry. He's like, this industry is really good, but like there's so much that they're fucking up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they said with the diversity thing. Yeah, they talk a good fucking game, but they never implement it. They're only doing it to make them look good. A lot of times you're gonna have to kick the door down, because as long as they can say they're part of the diversity scheme, that doesn't mean they have to actually do it. So, and this guy was white as snow, by the way, saying, proper like he was in his 50s, so he didn't. Yeah, he wasn't like a typical liberal, left-leaning, arts collegey type person. He
Yeah.
was just saying it was, and at the time I was at lowest end. I was thinking, fuck, because I mean, it is what it is. I mean, especially like with what's happening right now. I mean, I think this is bringing everything to the forefront right now, but a lot has been done, and it's for a long time, like it's just been dragging its heels.
No, you make
Well,
some good points there. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, here's a good example. Goodness gracious me.
Yeah.
Real McCoy, right, when that was on BBC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know about you, but I remember as a kid, I grew up on Goodness Gracious Me. I was thinking, this is.
Oh, mate, I loved Goodness Gracious Me watching that. I still watch it now on BBC iPlayer. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's hilarious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so funny. But that should have been the launching pad for more British Asian actors and writers and filmmakers. That should have been like the pathway.
Yeah.
For more to get in, just the same way like the Real McCoy, because that was both Black British and British Asians, because like Mira Sale and was in that as well. And for a long time, it's been a lot of stagger stepping, and it's not. People think that, oh yeah, well, why do you need representation? Well, the media any part of the media industry, whether that's film or television, whatever, it's important to have representation because that actually affects and molds people's mindset into but what are these people like? It's not enough for us to be invisible anymore. We have to have our voices heard. I mean, we're not our granddads. We're not even our parents or our great grandparents. I mean, keeping our head down and just that's not going to work anymore, because we're born here. the fact is that we have to make an impact, and just being silent and just, you know, minding our own is just, but that isn't enough. It just isn't.
No, I mean, yeah, no, you make a good, yeah, because with Goodness Gracious Me, because that was, if anything, that was making basically Asians making fun of Asians, essentially. That's what that was. But also, it was like shining a light, like the famous Going for an English skit, which is still a classic. But it's you find, I even find today that it's whenever you get, say, like the representation of Asians in film, in TV, it's that it's still kind of playing on those old stereotypes. It's like, for example, Deadpool. You know, Deadpool, he has a little Indian friend who drives a taxi. You know, and Deadpool was hilarious, but again, it's got that little stereotype knocking about, you know, and then it's just the representation of Asians in this medium. It still seems to fall into that whole, you know, but ding ding, thank you, come again. It still falls into that, unfortunately. And it's that my mum's been watching this show. What's it called? Suitable Boy. And again, it's just another one that they've pulled off the shelf. You know, it just seems like another one of those. And it's just, I'd just love to see I'd love to see a Marvel or DC film where the Indian guy is the superhero. You know, that would be cool to watch. But that's not going to happen anytime soon.
No, I think they're doing that with, was it Kamali, the stand-up comedian? He's got a role, hasn't he? So he had that picture where he was just like proper jacked and that. So
I'm not too sure.
Might have a little bit there. Honestly, I think the biggest problem, the reason why these stereotypes exist within the media, is because in front of the camera we may have like South Asian actors and performers, but behind the camera is a different story.
Yeah.
The problem is that you essentially asking people that don't know that doesn't know the culture, that doesn't know the British Asian communities. I use that plural, by the way. So I think even the term British Asian, it's too broad a statement, because, like, I mean, Pakistani Muslim, their life and their culture is going to be vastly different from an Indian Sikh, for example.
Yeah.
And even like a Hindu, as a Hindu Punjabi, like, which I am, my culture and my experiences are very different from a Hindu Gujarati, you know, especially those that are descended from the Ugandan Asians that came here in the 70s.
Yeah, completely different culture.
Exactly. I mean, it's too much of it's too broad anyway. And I think the problem is that if we don't have enough people in the writing rooms, and we don't have enough people, you know, within the positions of power, they can actually make those decisions to go, well, culturally, that's just not right, is it? It's just like, you know, I mean, it serves better. And here's an example. If I was typical Indian house, a typical Punjabi household, like Hindu or Sikh, it doesn't matter, but Punjabi household. Yeah. If you go into the freezer and you see what's in the ice cream tub?
It's not ice cream.
There you go. What is it?
It's usually sag or dal or something like that. That's knocking about in there.
That's exactly it.
That's usually what it is. Yeah.
And you know what? My childhood has been ruined multiple times growing up, like thinking I'd had ice cream, like Haagen-Dazs.
I had it the other day. I went to make some toast, and I went to the margarine tub because they're also victims in this. I went to open the margarine. There was some bloody chutney in there or something, and I was like, I can't put that on toast. But it's just, that's part of the things we had to suffer growing up.
Exactly. Just like, if I could get rid of a few things, like for a lot of South Asian cultures, just tricking us with the ice cream tub would be one.
Yeah, that's one.
The poisonous Indian aunties would be the other. And
we've all got those.
Yeah, I know, right? Just fucking bitches, man. They just need to get laid.
It's so true.
Just like, I think that's what it is. Like, they're basically the Indian currents. Like, they're so judgmental. They want to judge everybody else's life, basically because their husbands just don't have an interest in them anymore.
Yeah, they're basically the gossip queens. That's what they are. They know everyone's business.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's so bad. Like, who gives a shit? I mean, that's the other thing I've always thought. I mean, in terms of a lot of South Asians that are born in the UK, but no, we're not just born here. I mean, the diaspora of like Canada and America as well. I always thought, why move to these countries? And I'm talking about the previous generation.
Yeah.
Why move to these countries if you did not want us to have a British or an American or a Canadian life?
Exactly.
No, why live here and pretend like we're still over there? Like, that never made sense to me, you know?
Oh, here's one. Southall in London.
Oh, yeah.
The Indian of the Indian. I mean, that's where my mum comes from. I have an uncle, and now I got told that this isn't true, but we just went with this story and ran with it. That he was born in England, but because he was brought up in Southall, he has an Indian accent. I literally went and told everybody this. And then someone said to me, no, he was born in India. I went, no, he wasn't. He was born in Ealing Hospital, and he has an Indian accent.
Right. Are you, so not just an Indian twang, like a full-on Indian...
I don't mean like, not a little twang like you get around Leicester. I mean like a full-on, like, welcome to my shop. That kind of full-on accent. That's what he's got. And he owns a shop as well. So it's just...
What, is there anything else on the stereotype list?
Just tick it all off, arranged marriage. Yep, got that.
There you go. Like, disappointing my parents, there's another one. Tick.
Yeah, like, I think you can become a multi-billionaire doctor and still disappoint your Indian parents.
Oh yeah, especially me. I mean, I decided filmmaking, so my job is just to pretend like my parents are proud of me, even though I know secretly it's killing them.
Oh yeah.
So,
yes. I remember my cousin saying once that when he was at school, he got on a maths test, he got 100%, but also some girl got 100% as well, and his dad got mad at him. Said, "Why didn't you finish first?" And he was like, "Well, I can't get any higher." That's 100%. You should have got 110%.
That's a skit from Goodness Gracious Me as well, isn't it?
They play on that. The little boy when he gets his A-levels. Yeah, and he's only like 6 or something.
Yeah. I'm too busy playing football. It's in the local team.
My son got a B.
Why can't he get a trial at Liverpool? Because he's only 6.
Because he's only 6. But isn't it? This is and one of my favourite things for Goodness Gracious Me was the fat kid.
Oh yeah.
Such a healthy boy. It's so, because I don't know if you've ever got it, but whenever like Indian aunts and uncles say you look healthy, that means you look fat.
Yeah, no, that's basically it. Yeah, so I mean, I think every Indian boy, once they reach the age of 10, pretty much clinically obese at that point. I mean, parents, they just have to show everyone, like, yeah, look, we're feeding them.
Look how healthy he is.
Yeah, it's no sign of poverty, no sign. Yeah, just there you go.
Look, he's 10. He's already got high blood pressure. Look how healthy he is.
Probably hasn't seen his penis since he was like top age.
And
it's not healthy, man.
And we wonder why we don't have many athletes.
Well, there we go. Yeah, well, that's an interesting point you brought up. I don't want to take down the tone of the conversation, but
go on then.
We've been reading this audio book, Dr. Adam Rutherford, How to Argue with a Rapist. Yeah. And I'd recommend listeners just downloading it on Audible. It's really good.
Yeah.
Basically, all these ideas that we have about race and hierarchy in terms of athleticism or intellect or anything in terms of just inferiority, superiority, it's all based on nothing. It's not scientifically backed. Like this idea that only black people can run the 100-meter sprint. The last guy to win, the last white man to win, was Alan Wells in 1980. It's a white man from Britain. He ran the 100-meter sprint. There's a guy called Christophe Lambert. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right.
He's the Frenchman.
Yeah, he's from France, and he ran the 100 meters in less than 9 seconds. And it's reason that isn't a very good example. You can say, oh, well, look, so many black people, they're running the 100 meter sprint. It doesn't work because only 58 people in the history of the Olympics has ever ran. Any scientist will tell you that's not a good number to judge from anyway.
Yeah.
And it's the fast twitch muscle fibers. It's called the ACTN3, which is which they find it is not solidified. It's not exclusive to West African culture. It's all the African American culture. It's out there within the whole population, within different ethnicities that exist.
Okay.
You know, and so that in itself isn't a good enough example, because those fast twitch muscle fibers work. If you were to say, oh, well, you know, only West Africans or African Americans can get this, you know, they need explosive power and speed and what have you, and, you know, explosive strength. Well, okay, why are there very few black people in speed cycling, which requires fast twitch muscle fibers, while there are very few in powerlifting and strength? Because they'd be optimal for that as well. You know, well, optimal. The thing is, it just doesn't hold true, because this all stems from Jesse Owens. Well, I don't know if you remember.
Jesse Owens.
Yeah, Jesse Owens. He this was basically when they held the Olympics in Germany, like during
it was Hitler's Olympics.
That's basically it, and they had this obsession with the, you know, with the superior race, right?
Yeah.
The Aryans. And Jesse Owens just blasted through it. Like, he just absolutely embarrassed everyone. And anyone that knew what he was doing, he was training hard. You know, that was a that was a huge victory, you know, not just for America, not just for Jesse Owens, but for democracy, for the world.
Oh yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
But that in itself proved the idea of superior ethnicity as anything. It just didn't hold. But the reason that stuck, especially like with black athletes, is because it was his trainer that said, and I can't say it verbatim because I don't remember it, so I'll paraphrase, but he essentially said, well, the reason he managed to do well is because he's descended from the black people of the jungle that had to outrun lions and tigers, and is more closer to the savage than the man.
Okay.
He completely stripped away all his hard work and effort and everything that Jesse Owens did, and they just diminished it into, oh well, that's just what they're like. And this
was his trainer.
This was his trainer, and even President Truman, he flat out refused to meet him. He did not congratulate him at all.
I think I think at that time, it's like, even if, like, you know, we say that the Nazis were bad and everything, but even in, like, you know, Britain and especially the United States, they were just as bad in many ways, because that example you gave of the trainer of Jesse Owens, he had to make it a race thing once again. He had to put it down to, because he's genetically like this, because he's genetically of African descent, of course he runs like this. And they had to, once again, they needed an excuse, and that's had to go down to it.
Absolutely. Well, and that's the thing. Like, everybody always thinks, oh well, it's a compliment. It's a compliment. You know, things like, oh well, black people are very strong and fast, and Asian people are very good with business and what have you, or, you know, East Asian people, money, whatever that category is. Well, it doesn't work for two reasons. First of all, like, these characterizations were created in the 18th century by pseudo-intellectuals like Voltaire and many others that resided within Oxford, within Cambridge University in this country. They never met these people, and they decided to categorize them in terms of value. And white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, which were at the top, by the way, which they categorized them as being kind, generous, wise, and all-knowing, basically, right? Meaning superior. So it doesn't work in that sense, because it's just based on nothing, basically. And the second reason that doesn't work is because it's actually harmful. You know, and it's brought itself out in our society, because if you say that, oh, black people are only good at sports, okay, what about the finance industry?
Mm.
You know, what about intellectual pursuits? There are plenty.
Yeah.
Basically saying that if a black person is only good as an athlete, they're not smart enough to do anything else. Which is why in football, and by the way, I don't know that much about football. I know a bit
Yeah.
from my own research. This is why they're struggling to become football managers, because of this poisonous
It's
mindset.
the stigma that's against it.
And like with the British Asian footballers as well, like
Yeah.
this idea that for some reason we're physically inferior or weak or
We're
small.
incapable of doing it.
Exactly, and this is ridiculous because first of all, I've grown up around Leicester. I've been to other places. You can't tell me shit, right? I've met all different people, walks of life. I can tell you there are plenty of South Asians that I met that could have been professional footballers.
Oh yeah,
They could,
there's loads of them out
like,
there.
yeah, none of them were given the chance. They weren't given the chance. You know, a guy called Roger Verdi. He was a Indian Sikh man born in this country. He had to change his name in order to become a professional footballer. They still wouldn't take him on. He had to go to Canada and America and play in their football leagues.
Mm.
The only thing that's keeping British Asian footballers out of the sport is racism. Like the scouts flat out refuse to see them. They won't go so well.
Yeah. I mean, looking at you, there's not much of you left to actually hang around with. I've seen your weight loss video, well, your weight loss pictures and everything.
I know, right?
I said
Yeah,
I was drinking a Coke.
there you go. Well, I wasn't beating off the ladies before, but now they're just fucking.
Oh.
Now I'm having to beat them up with a stick.
Oh, hey, how can they resist themselves?
Exactly. I mean, it's soaking every time I go outside the house. I have to wear wellies now.
Yeah. I was looking at what we were discussing before.
Okay.
We were discussing about there we go, full screen now. We were discussing about Asians in the media, and we were doing all right on that until my internet decided to stop working. The last thing we were discussing before we cut off was about because you said that you knew someone who could have been a footballer who was Asian, and if you remember, it has been a week. No one does a podcast over a week, but that's what we've done.
Yeah, it's not great. I still have suspicions that it was the Premier League that shut us down. I think might be getting a few death threats through emails and shit posted through my letterbox, but there you go.
Who knows? And also, a lot's happened in the week that we ended our podcast and reconvened. Dylan White lost.
Yeah, that was surprising, man.
Literally out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, Povetkin is still a beast, man. I know he's getting up there in years, but you've got to respect that power, man.
You know what? It's so bad because we all still, and we probably we'll continue to do so, we all write Povetkin off.
Yeah, I think it's so bad because, I mean, this is why I love MMA way more than boxing. With MMA, at least in mixed martial arts or cage fighting, for the uninitiated, is that if a fighter loses, they have the ability to come back. Have that ability to redeem themselves. It's the archetypical story of the broken down hero coming back to redeem himself and, capture the prodigal son returning, basically. We've had that with, back in the day, George St. Pierre. We had that, I think to an extent, we had that with McGregor as well.
Yeah, but look how many times McGregor's lost and he's still come back.
Exactly. And the fact is, that fight he had with Nate Diaz, the first time he lost, on the chin, took it like a man. He had no excuses. He said, you know what, I lost. He was a better man, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to win. And he came back and he beat him. And I know that McGregor has this reputation of being an arrogant dick, but you can't deny he's a champion. I mean, that's a champion's mentality, right?
Champion always comes back.
Yeah. But the problem is with boxing, I think the issue is that if you lose once, people just want to write you off. It's like, okay, right, hit the road, you're done. Because everyone's always looking for this. They're always looking for this mythical undefeated streak for some reason.
Yeah.
It's terrible because the fact is that a single loss does not make you a loser, right?
No.
And I think more than that though, the way that it's affecting the boxing business, the industry, however you want to call it,
Yeah.
is that we're not seeing the fights that we want to see. You know,
No,
to
because
me,
they're all afraid to lose that zero. All afraid
exactly,
to have that one loss on their record.
absolutely. I mean, the fact is that with boxing, it's just too many managers, too many promoters. They want to monetize their fighters. They're pretty much treating them like cattle, and they're really, like you said, they're trying to protect that O. You know,
That's
one of
it.
these things has got to go. But at least with MMA, it's like you're seeing the fights you want to see.
Yeah.
You know, the only one we never really got to see was Fedor Emelianenko
Yeah.
in the UFC, but I think that time has passed anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, even back in the day in boxing, it used to be quite normal for a fighter not to be undefeated. The only odd one was, say, Rocky Marciano back in the day. He was undefeated. But there's a lot of speculation as to he was being handpicked, a lot of fighters. But all the rest of them, you go through them like Joe Louis, Sugar Ray Robinson, Roberto Duran. You go through all of them from back in the day. Being undefeated was quite rare. And it was quite normal to have a few losses on your record. Whereas now, it's like if you suddenly get that one loss, they're talking like your career's over, you're done, you're finished. And it's like, now Dylan White now, I know he's been waiting 1,000 days to get his WBC shot, but now he's got this one loss. Now it's like, oh, it's all up in the air. He may not ever get that shot again. It's like, well, you can't just take it away from the guy. If he comes back and beats Povetkin, he's got to be put back in the, in the talk again.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to be fair, it's not like Povetkin is a. I mean, he's not a job. He's not. I almost said a wrestling term. Yeah, he's not a journeyman. You know.
Oh no.
Like the guy. Like the guy has a great reputation. I mean, I think the only reason why people are treating it like a shock is I think it's the age thing more than anything.
Because he's 40 and he shouldn't be able to beat a guy who's like 31, 32. And the thing is, though, is like Povetkin, he's a former world champion. And, he's been in there with the best. The only time he lost his title was against the most dominant heavyweight from the 2000s, Klitschko. He, what is it? He's got this world of experience. Seen against, against Price. He was hurt against Price. And Povetkin's one of those, when he gets hurt, he actually comes back stronger. Because the round before that he knocked Price out, he actually got hurt by Price, but came out and landed this amazing knockout against him. And now against Dylan White, it's not like Dylan White was getting battered by Povetkin. He was bossing the fight, had the better footwork, better hands, fighting smart, knocked him down twice in the fourth round. And we thought, okay, we're going to cruise to a nice win here for Dylan White. But then Povetkin showed why that experience pays off, because he managed to pull that punch out of somewhere.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can't write him off. And to be fair, rematch is only fair. But you've got to remember, they did call this fight the Battle of the Left Hooks for a reason.
Yeah.
Because like these guys, they hit you. It feels like you're kissing the express train.
Yeah.
Like it's an out of body experience, and not in the most pleasant way either.
But this shows, heavyweight boxing is what it is. It's like, as there's some people say now, questioning Dylan White's chin and everything. Yeah. But it's like in the heavyweights, you could say like when Tyson Fury got nearly knocked out against Wilder, that his chin now needs to be questioned. It's not that he's got a bad chin. It's just that they have these sledgehammers that when they land a lot harder than, say, a middleweight or a lightweight.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone that's in the heavyweight division has a puncher's chance. I mean, those guys are throwing bombs. And you know what? It's such a British attitude to have. By the way. Don't get me wrong. I mean, being born and raised here, like, obviously, part of the culture and society is like, we believe in fairness and we believe in having a good time, but we're so fucking pessimistic as well. Like,
oh yeah,
no, it's too late. Oh, we can't. This is why the Americans have it better. Actually, they're more optimistic. Like, yeah, let's give it a go. Whereas like the British are like, fuck that. And it's so dumb because it's just like it's one of those things. Like Rocky was based on an actual fight where Chuck Wepner fought.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like I think those redemption stories within boxing, it really is all controlled. It's all manipulated. It's all stifled, actually.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the people in power. They're worried about they're worried about money. Like they're worried about, oh, what if this fighter loses? If this fighter is at risk, we can't make money off of him. We can't profit off of him. And it's just like, well, the only people that are paying for that really is the fans, because we're not seeing the fights we want to see. The only exception, sorry, is with Tyson Fury and Wilder. But that's because both of those guys have that mentality, have that warrior mindset of, no, fuck that, I'm going to fight anyone, anytime. And even Fury, like, he's the best example. He just, after years of just being out of the ring, and he had so many problems with his mental health and some of the things which is, I think, would have broken anyone, you know. And he's like, the fact that he was able to come back from that and just that rust, and really, it's an amazing story, like, because he overcame so much, and he could have easily had a few more tune-up fights to really get into it. Like,
we were all saying it.
Yeah, like nobody would have faulted him for that at all.
Yeah,
but his mindset was like, no, I'm ready now. So he just fucking went for it, and he does everything.
Before the first Wilder fight, we were all thinking like, this is a bit soon, you know, because he had 2 tune-up fights, and let's face it, they weren't the best. You know, he had, like, was it Pianetta and some other person, but they weren't great. And then he's going in there with the world champion, and it's but then he actually ended up putting on an amazing display and arguably won that first fight, according to most of us. He won that, but it's the draw set up well for the rematch, and he showed what he could do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that guy is not the epitome of a champion, of a warrior, I don't know who else is. Because honestly, like, Wilder, like, he talks a lot of shit. He's entertaining. You know, he's phenomenal for a heavyweight should not be able to move like that. I mean, even there are even NBA basketballers right now that struggle to move the way he does. But he just did not back that. Like, he's not backing down from anything. He's like, you know what? I'll fight the best. I'll fight anyone. You know. He said that famous quote that no man born of his mother could beat me. Exactly. And I think he's proven that. And to be fair, I think after AJ, I know people are going to disagree, I don't think he's going to have anything left to prove once he wins that fight.
I mean, who else is there to really face if he, let's say, like, you know, if Fury goes on and the Fury White fight happens, he beats White. He then goes on and beats AJ. There's nowhere else to really go after that. You know, I mean, obviously the rematch against AJ would pay millions, but does he need the money? No. You know, he doesn't. Then he'll just be doing it just for the sake of doing it. So there's not really much for him to do. I remember him saying on another podcast, not as highbrow as this one, he was saying how he's tempted to jump into MMA and take part in the UFC, which would be interesting. I mean, I've played as him on UFC 4. He's got a hell of a reach, but it's again, it's one of those that it would be interesting to see it. I hope it doesn't become a James Toney situation where he just gets outclassed, but it'd be interesting to see him do. He's done WWE.
Yeah. You know, as a fan, I'll be curious just to see that. I definitely would be. But as someone, like, and by the way, I'm not a professional, whatever. I'm definitely a hobbyist.
Yeah.
Boxing and mixed martial arts, they're completely different sports. I mean, they're both combat sports. They both require discipline and temperament and what have you. But you can't have the same stance in MMA that you like. You can't have the same stance in boxing that you have in MMA and vice versa. I mean, they're very different things. I mean, with MMA, it requires so many other variables. You've got Thai boxing, you've got wrestling, you've got Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you've got clinch work, you've got all these different aspects that you just will not have in boxing. I mean, we've seen that. It's not about what's better, what isn't. But we have seen that with James Toney being the best example. I mean, that guy is a mean fucking bastard. He is just not just a beast, but like the guy is just mean-spirited when he gets in there.
Yeah.
Right? But you saw him in MMA, and every guy that was a pundit, every expert, every trainer, every fighter, they all said the exact same thing. Yeah, James Toney is a beast in boxing.
Yeah, in
But
boxing.
but the problem is that what's going to happen? God, I'm forgetting his name. This is really bad. Who he fought?
Randy Couture.
Randy Couture. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fought Randy Couture. Everyone said the same thing. Randy Couture, he may go in for a lazy jab, but he's not going to box with him. That'd be
No.
stupid. He's going to go
No.
in for a single or a double leg, punch his face in, and then choke him out. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And the opposite happened with like Conor McGregor. Like, I never thought McGregor was going to beat him. I never did, because it's like,
There's no chance. That was never going to happen.
No, because the thing is, yeah, McGregor is very good with his hands. Like, the guy has a piston for a left hand.
Yeah.
It's like the touch of death. But Mayweather's been doing this since he was 5 years old. Mayweather's one of the best boxers in the world.
Yeah.
And boxing, it's just a different sport. It's a different rhythm. It's a different flow. Like, you put a boxing stance in MMA, you're going to get your front leg kicked off. I mean,
Exactly.
you do an MMA, you stand the way they do in MMA in a boxing match. You've got a huge target. Like, all your torso is going to be exposed.
You're leaving yourself to it. It's in the titles, in the name. But it's mixed martial arts and boxing. Boxing is focused on. It's a combat sport with your fists. It's focused as one specific type of combat sport. Whereas mixed martial arts is a variety of combat sports. So you might specialize in boxing. You might specialize in Muay Thai. You might specialize in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in wrestling. But it's a mixture of that. And today, if we look at MMA fighters today, they can't really specialize in one because everybody's kind of on the same level and everything else. So you can't really just be, I'm just a jiu-jitsu artist, because then someone who's got punching power could take you out. So you have to kind of be good at everything now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this all comes back to when it first started anyway, the very first UFC. Because everyone always had that debate, like, what's the best style of fighting? What would actually work? And what they found was actually the thing that works is a little bit of everything.
Yeah, a bit of everything.
And it's the Bruce Lee philosophy. Bruce Lee said it himself, that the problem with styles is that they're too rigid. They're not focused on real fighting. Real fighting is chaos. It's a mess thing, and it continues on. You've got to have a little bit of everything, And a lot of modern fighters, a lot of modern mixed martial arts, they are training. They're getting better. You're seeing it, because this sport is only around for 25, maybe 26 years, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. As a professional sport, it has been, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is like, it's only going to evolve and get better as we go along. But I think the only people really that are having these debates about what style's better, like, they're just stupid. To be fair, I'm not going to mention his name, but there was a guy who, like, he did like a black belt karate guy.
Yeah.
And he said the most stupid thing I've ever heard. Well, one of the most stupid things I've heard a lot of stupid shit, because I hang around with a lot of stupid people.
Of course.
But, yeah, I mean, don't we all? But the problem, he told me to my face, he said, boxers are very ineffective in punching. I'm like, are you fucking mad? You like this karate guy?
It's probably one of the most effective ways of punching is boxing.
Exactly. Like, I'm telling you, if I was to put you into a ring, well, not you specifically because you train, but if I was to put like the average person, or even someone like karate black belt, I'll put you into a ring with just a semi-professional heavyweight boxer, or even maybe like a few. They would embarrass you so badly that you would not want to show your face in public ever again. And I've heard, I would take a punch off Mike Tyson. No, you fucking wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
No, because there are professional boxers that would not want to take a punch of him.
Yeah.
And there have been sparring partners that every time they talk about sparring him in his prime, they look at it like it's a Vietnam flashback.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you weren't there, man. You weren't there. No, don't make me think about this again.
But it is interesting how with mixed martial arts, with MMA, you don't see a lot of these like black belt karate people. You don't see a lot of these. Like, you might see a person who's done judo in the past, because judo is quite wrestling based. But you won't see someone who does Tai Chi. and Aikido. You might see the odd person who's done Aikido in the past, but they won't say, "Oh, this guy's known for specializing in karate." You won't see that because those sports aren't effective when it comes to these type of scenarios. Like Bruce Lee actually said in the street fight, all you need to know is boxing and wrestling. Yeah, that's Bruce Lee. He said in a street fight, all you need to know is boxing and wrestling, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's not lying. I mean, the fact is that obviously, like, there's a few other things that you can add into that, but as a base,
as a really base, that's what you need. As a base, obviously you can like throw the odd knee here and there, but if you're going to try and throw a roundhouse kick in a street fight, you're going to be struggling because where you're going to get the space to do that?
Yeah, I mean, like if it's really tight, I mean, it's going to be difficult. I think the problem is, and this isn't a disrespect to the traditional fighting style, by the way. The problem is that with a lot of these traditionalist styles, like sport karate or taekwondo, they're not based on reality. Like the problem is that when you're in where you're not actually sparring effectively, with other people that have no problem we're not trying to hurt you in like an actual fight, but like it's not touch-based fighting.
Yeah.
It's going to give you a false sense of security, and you're not going to know how to react when you get hit. When you get punched, like that's a good learning tool. I know it's scary the first time it happens, but after a while you realise you're not made of feathers. I mean, you're not made of you're not gonna break. But I think that's the biggest issue is that, I mean, it's false confidence, it's arrogance, and I mean there have been some people that have done karate that have done well in UFC. You know, Leo Samachita, we've had Wonder Boy, but they've incorporated that with boxing and wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Thai boxing as well. Like, so there are effective techniques, but
you have to incorporate it. You can't just solely focus on it.
Absolutely not. I mean, that's the problem, because like, the idea that you could just be a purist in one style, it's just not true. And to be fair, it never has been.
I think those things, those traditional martial arts, they've worked very well within each other. Like a sparring session between two people who do karate, it works well because those two both do karate. But if you put a person who's karate against a Muay Thai fighter, they'll get destroyed because because Thai boxing, Muay Thai, is a much more effective fighting style when it comes to actually causing pain on someone. I mean, like one of my things I always wanted to do is actually go to Thailand to watch a Muay Thai fight live, and because just landing a knee on someone or landing an elbow on someone, you're gonna feel it.
It's first time you get kicked in the legs, it's very unpleasant. It makes you question every life decision you've made at that point. Like, why the fuck did I decide?
What's led me to this?
Exactly. But honestly, and by the way, I'm speaking as someone who's trained, but I'm not going to claim I'm an expert, because I'm not.
That's fine.
My own personal opinions. I think the biggest problem with the traditional styles, like, Aikido, maybe I won't say Aikido, because to me it's just like Tai Chi with extra steps. But like stuff like karate, when you compare that with Muay Thai, or boxing, it's the way they train as well. I think that's the biggest problem. Is that the problem is that with karate, like then the trainers, they're not really going to spend that much time with you, really trying to hone your skill about what's effective, what isn't. The way they spar isn't particularly useful either. I mean, how many times have you ever had to spar with someone like, I've hit you 1 point, and then go back to your points, and it's not even you're not even really getting hit, you're getting touched.
No.
Not to say that you need to batter each other all the time. I mean, who wants to walk around with brain damage? But
a lot of karate people might get angry at this, but it's like it's like basically playing a game of tig. In a sense, essentially, that's what it is. Like tig, you're it. That's literally what it is. You're trying to tap the person to score points. Whereas boxing, even at amateur level boxing is about scoring points, but you're still landing a punch on someone's face,
Yeah.
and you're still landing those punches to their body. You're still doing that.
Yeah. Well, you're throwing punches with intent to hurt. Really,
Yeah.
punches with intentions. Well, you're not overly thinking about it, but there's a mission behind it. You're not just throwing it and going, "Oh, well, I'm done." It's like, okay, well, I'm throwing this because I don't want this guy. I want to stop this person, right? That's the kind of mindset, or at least I think the most Machiavellian way of putting it is that you're throwing these punches with mean intentions. You really want to fucking hurt this person, you know? And I think that mean streak, that aggression, is particularly useful. And to be fair, I don't think karate as a whole is the problem, because the traditional Okinawan karate, the full contact sport, obviously, I think if they adapted it to punching in the face, it'd be a lot more effective. But like, that's way more effective because those guys are used to getting hit. Whereas you'll see on YouTube where they do like mixed sparring sessions or mixed fights, more accurately mixed fights. These karate people, these people that are doing kung fu, as soon as they hit for it, they panic. Like their mind,
they don't know what to do. They're not used to being in that situation.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, not that it's pleasant, not that you like getting punched after a while. You never enjoy it, but you don't panic. Like you're like, hey, I've been here before. I can keep, like, I'm all right. I keep going.
I think there's a reason why those types of sports, like kung fu, karate, and everything, they were very popular in the 70s, very incredibly popular in the 80s, and kind of people into it in the 90s before MMA became so big. And when MMA came about, I think people who started to watch MMA became a little bit more tuned in to different fighting styles, and that's why jiu-jitsu is now so popular, because they realize jiu-jitsu is an incredibly effective fighting style.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas before, people didn't really know what jiu-jitsu was. But now, there's especially Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So that's why I think now, with the rise of MMA, those types of sports, I think, like, say, for example, if we had kids, not with each other, but if we had kids...
ugly kids if we did.
Could you imagine? My days. What the heck? How hairy would those kids be? But
they'd be screaming, "Kill me!" And God.
But if we had kids, we would most likely put them in a boxing gym or an MMA gym or a wrestling or jiu-jitsu gym. We're not going to be likely to put them in a karate dojo or anywhere like that, because we know they're not as effective as these sports. Whereas back in the day, that's why a lot of us were doing karate when we were younger, because our parents didn't know any better, because that's what they'd seen.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, it's the same type of mindset that, the bodybuilder is the fighter, the guy that looks like... Yeah, which is like, it's been proven, well, no, that's not quite true. I mean, without the training, those muscles are they're not really effective for combat, but...
They're useless.
No, I mean, unless that person actually has the training to fight as well, then no, it's like, what they're going to do, they're basically a big giant bull with very bad stamina. Like, you can ride that out, and then as soon as they get tired, like, anyway, I digress. But I think, I mean, like, Kung Fu and all those Kung Fu movies that we saw from the 70s and whatever, they were phenomenal. But
they were cool to watch. They were like really cool to watch, those films. Like, you know, there's Jackie Chan films, even the Bruce Lee films and everything. They were really cool to watch. And even like, I used to like even watching, and then you realise that Steven Seagal wasn't actually as hard as you thought he was. You know, same with Jean-Claude Van Damme, they weren't quite as hard as we thought, because they weren't as effective, you know, in the styles that they were doing.
No, well, Steven Seagal, man, like, that guy's a clown, but I don't know him personally, so I might be but,
slander on him.
Oh, Jesus Christ! But that's my personal opinion. I'm not saying he actually is. Blah blah blah. Whatever.
Yeah.
But it's funny because, like, Bruce Lee, actually, if you see, even though he made those popular, you see his movies. That was he used actual real techniques in fighting, like the Jeet Kune Do philosophy. That was the precursor, because he actually said himself that a lot of the kung fu stuff, the wushu of
Yeah,
East Asia. He
yeah.
said that how ineffective that is. It's just
he was very against all those traditional styles.
absolutely, and he was the first. That's pretty much why they call him the grandfather of mixed martial arts, because he really was. And he was actually studying grappling with it was God, what's his name?
I'm not sure.
Judo Jean LaBelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was studying with him, and he was actually looking to incorporate that. And from what we see from the Jeet Kune Do philosophy, that would have turned into MMA at a certain point. But he had the bad manners of dying, so we never got to see that.
How selfish of him.
Exactly. Like, so rude. Like, he gave so much joy and like inspiration.
Yeah. I heard this story about Bruce Lee that to help with his defense, he said rather than going to like gyms or something like that, he actually used to pick fights in the street. He used to go. He used to go around in the streets, and even when he went to America and everything, and he'd pick fights with people, and then when they come at him, that's how he'd work on his defense. And then as his defense got better, that's where he incorporated those in. Because how else are you going to learn? That just shows that how this guy used to think.
Yeah, I mean, he was a genius at fighting. I mean, I hate using that term, but for lack of a better term, he really was. Because, I mean, iron. At the end of the day, iron sharpens iron. You've got to put this in practice, and it's the same with anything else, like filmmaking and any sort of creative endeavor. And it's anything really. The theoretical aspect of it, like you're not going to learn to play basketball just by watching people play basketball. And I'm bringing it back to sport karate again. The problem with the katas is that you're basically fighting an invisible ghost, right?
Yeah.
Which is particularly useful. If you train basketball in the same way, like first time you do that for like 9 months, and then you actually give them a basket, what's going to happen? It's going to hit them in the face. They're not going to know what to do. And to be fair, I think in boxing and other styles, if they started training that in that way, those particular individuals wouldn't be able to use it because they wouldn't know how to react, so I mean, I think the bullshido, I think people have clocked on, and to be fair, that's not to be disrespectful, because we don't know everything. I think any person with the mindset that, I know everything. No. That's just an arrogant human being who just hasn't really, they haven't experienced the world. It's a level of arrogance that you want to avoid, because for a long time people were like, heel kicks, spinning heel kicks, and kicks, and that they were like, that stuff doesn't work. That's all bullshit. It's like, actually, if you know how to implement that within the style of mix, it actually does. So
very effective.
Yeah, so Taekwondo as a whole may not be effective just due to the training, but there are elements within it that actually do work if you can train that properly. Those side kicks are fucking dangerous. I mean,
Taekwondo teaches you a very good kicking game, which you can incorporate into other elements of mixed martial arts.
Of course, and even though I've been shitting on karate quite a lot,
there
are small snippets where that can work as well. But as a whole, especially with the point stuff and the katas and the ki, no, like it's like as a whole it can't. But like because if that was the case, then Lyoto Machida wouldn't have, like, black belt karate, fourth dan karate black belt, UFC light heavyweight champion former, and Wonderboy Thompson. Like they wouldn't be successful in MMA at all. But clearly it does work. But it's just about bringing it back to the Bruce Lee philosophy. It's about what's useful, disregarding what isn't, and making it specifically your own. It's about self. Really, it sounds artsy-fartsy, but I'm a director, I'm an artist.
We are artsy-fartsy people.
Yeah, well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, it's better than getting a real job, anyway. So
who wants one of those?
Exactly. It's just soul destroying. Who wants to work in an office? Oh, how are you doing, Amanda? Oh, she got pregnant. Lovely. Would you like a cake? Fuck off. Leave me alone. I hate your boring life.
Because I'm sadly one of those artists who has to have a day job, as I refer to myself as an artist, and it is kind of like you feel like you're playing an act in many ways, because I'm sitting there and they're like talking about their lives, and they're talking about I say to them, what did you do over the weekend? oh, well, like, me and my husband thought we'd go to Aldi, and then we thought we wanted to get some scones, but we thought the ones at M&S were better, so we thought we'd go to M&S for a little bit, but it's a bit expensive. So then we decided to come home and have some sick. And I'm like, fuck's sakes, this is their life. And they say, oh, what did you do, Taryn, on the weekend? I had a gig in Bedford. You know, it's like a completely different world that we're living in, and it's just. And then, you know,
I'll be honest, mate. I fell asleep during that scenario, during that story.
I think you felt living it.
Yeah, I was just like, fucking hell. I was like, if this story of you going to Aldi doesn't end up with you like taking pills and like getting high on peyote, then I'm not interested. Like, fucking hell, like, do some Jaeger bombs. Like, I don't know.
You know what though? But it's quite interesting though how a lot of these people who do these jobs, like just who have that. Not saying that they all do it, which most of them do, but they have these jobs, like these day jobs. And if they don't have anything else, like say, for example, that I have with like comedy and writing and everything, or like, I know some people, one person I used to work with was a wedding planner. If they don't have anything like that, what they live for is the weekend, because that's the only time they get to really be themselves. Whereas throughout the week, like, you know, we might do the odd jobs in there, but throughout the weekdays, me and you, we're just doing our own thing anyway.
Yeah.
You know, whereas them, they're not able to do that. So on the weekend, that's the only time they can actually do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame because the thing is, I think with life, I mean, I don't know, people have their own different spiritual and religious beliefs, but
yeah,
I mean, it is always a good idea just to treat this as if you're only going to have one go at it, because it's possible that maybe that is the case. But I mean, it's a shame because I think, I mean, I'm a storyteller, I'm an artist, I'm a filmmaker, but I love my other hobbies in terms of like, you know, mixed martial arts and watching sports and just living and having a life. I think it's not about whether you're successful or failure or fail at this. I think that's subjective, you know. It doesn't matter. Like for me, maybe wanting to be at the highest pinnacle in the Hollywood system, that would be amazing. But for others, they're happy just, you know, making films as a hobby, and that's fine. But I think it's not about failure or success. I think it's about really doing what's authentic to you, what you want to do.
Yeah, everyone has their own different measures of it. Like some people I know, their dream in life is to get a stable job, nice house, and have a family. That's what they aspire for in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's just different to what I would look for, different to what yourself would look for, because we have different things that we're looking at. Not that we're saying that we wouldn't want to have kids in the future or stuff like that. It's just at this moment in time, we're looking at things like, say, you want to get further in film. You want to get these accolades, get these big film jobs. I want to make it big in comedy. Let's get these big gigs going on. And that's what we're looking to do, those things. Yeah. And that's what, I think that's just different that people look for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for me personally, it's more about telling the most personal stories that I can tell. Like, I understand, like, filmmaking, it's still a business. You have to earn money. But for me, that's not my motivation. My motivation really is just to find stories that get me excited, that I feel like I have to express personally, you know. But I think, to be fair, as creative people, I think we're just a different breed of animal anyway.
Yeah.
Like, if we're not being creative, if we're not doing stuff like this, like just this podcast, for example, we just feel miserable. We just don't like it. I mean, making films is exciting to me. I get giddy. I get like it really raises my energy. I have so much fun and I'm laughing and you know, and it's great. But I think for some people, I think the hardest thing is for some people just to figure out what they want. And I do think that a lot of people, so I think some people, they're content with what they've got. They've got their life, whatever, and they're happy with that, and that's fine. But I do think, but I do think other people, they're not sure what they want, and my heart goes out to those people because it is difficult, you know. Like for me, I was always looking that I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to do it exactly. It took me a while to figure that out, but I mean, it is heartbreaking, but at the same time, like, even though people are fine with just a little humdrum life. They're in their own area, fine. I do sometimes look at it and go, but there's so much of the world to experience. I mean,
Yeah.
no, like, why would you want to stay in the same area? Why would you want to ghettoize yourself and
Yeah.
not have that ambition? You know? So, I mean, and going back to the point about going for what you want, I mean, you can fail at something you don't want. So you might as well go for what you want, you know?
Exactly. It's and it's the thing is, when you fail at something you don't want, you're not really bothered about it.
No.
When you fail at something you do want, it hurts, and you
Yeah.
feel it, and you think about it, you mull over it, and you can't forget it. And then you can either do one or two things. You either come back stronger, like say Dylan White, for example. He either comes back stronger, or you just think, "Fuck it, it's not worth it." You know, it's one of two ways. It's like my mum, not too long ago, she said to me, she goes, "Tharun, you're doing all these gigs. So you've been going for about a year and a half now." Yeah. And she goes, "Do you think it's going to go anywhere?" And I said to her, the day I think that stand-up's not going to go anywhere is the day I stop gigging.
Yeah.
Because then if you don't think it's going to go anywhere, then why bother? You know, you've always got this element in you that's thinking, well, yeah, but if I keep going, we're going to get somewhere with it. Like I've got a guy at my work. He's in a band. He's been in a band for 10 years. They do like your local pubs and stuff like that. But like, even though he does it on the side, he's got his main job. You could tell there's always going to be an element in him that's thinking, yeah, this is going to, if I keep doing this, I'm going to get somewhere with it. This is going to go somewhere. There's always going to be, you'll always have that element in you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a pulling force, isn't it? I mean, it pulls you in. It's like, even if you get burned out after a while and you just go, I just need a break, I don't want to do it. Eventually that thing is going to pull you back in and go, and after a while, no matter how long it takes, you'll go, yeah, I really want to do that again. Yeah. And it's like, it's a blessing, you know, it really is. And you know what, for me, I think creativity in itself, it's something, it's like having fast twitch muscle fibers, right? I think it's something you either have it or you don't, right? Like that eternal spark of creativity. I think to say everyone is creative,
no,
it's not saying everyone's intelligent. It loses meaning because clearly
not everyone is creative.
No. But having said that, though, I think creativity is, even though there's a natural ability, it's a muscle. You have to practice. You have to keep going. Because the fact is, I mean, for making films, being a director, in terms of making movies, like there's no child geniuses. There's no idiot savants in this. Like, there's too many elements. It's practice. You're gonna be crap the first time you do it. You're gonna be shit. It's gonna require you to just keep doing, keep practicing, keep fucking up, you know, and just keep going. Because, like, even Usain Bolt, everyone says, "Oh yeah, he's the fastest man in the world, like genetically gifted." Nonsense. Like, there's some genetic components to success. The guy's an Olympic athlete. He's been working his fucking arse off.
He had to trade his arse off to get there. His genetics have helped, but he still had to work. He didn't just sit on his arse and say, "Yeah, I'm going to break the 100-meter record." He still had to work his arse off to get there.
Yeah, and that's we talked about this last time.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, too many aspects of like prowess, like in terms of athletic prowess, they give too much in terms of being genetically gifted. You know, there's this myth about Kenyan marathon runners. Like, as school kids, they used to run to school and back like 5 miles, and they were so gifted. And they actually came back and said, "Well, no, we took the bus like everyone else did.
Yeah,
just trained really well." And that's why, like with marathon running, they found out it's because the high altitude.
That's what it is. Yeah.
It had nothing to do with their genetic component at all, and it's almost disrespectful. It does a disservice to a lot of the athletes that train.
Oh yeah.
Because of course, like there are certain genetic components. I mean, Olympic athletes are outliers. They are freaks by definition.
Yeah.
They can do stuff that we can't. But majority of that is the effort and the time and just the training. Like, and like, here's a good example. I mean, I'm not a football, not really that much into football like, as a fanatic,
Yeah.
but I use this as an example. The 1966 England World Cup winners, like the football team,
Yeah.
right? I guarantee they would do very badly with a modern football team that was like
Yeah.
Division 2.
They'd be terrible now. They'd be horrendous right now.
Yeah. Is it because we've genetically advanced? Like, no.
No.
It's because now with athletics is that we train properly.
Yeah.
Sports science is there. We treat it seriously. It's not a hobbyist thing.
Yeah.
You know, we have a better understanding of nutrition and diet,
Yeah.
rest and recovery. Like,
Yeah.
we just and there's a level of professionalism, and that's, I think, that in terms of the broader term, that's how it works. I think in sport and athletics. I mean, they even said that the genetic component ACTN3, which is the molecular breakdown of what fast twitch muscle fibers are.
Yeah.
Because they've done tests and they say, yeah, you may have an advantage, you may have a genetic component to this.
Yeah.
But that only, like that in itself isn't enough. Like you've got to actually put the effort in, because there are plenty of people that would fast twitch muscle fibers. They do fucking terrible in the 100-meter sprint.
Yeah.
They're terrible at speed cycling. They'd be terrible as swimmers. You know.
Yeah. So we go back to football. It's like in the 60s and the 70s, even we go far like the 80s, the 70s. It goes far back as when football began. It used to be quite normal to have a few drinks, have a few beers, have a cigarette in the changing room. It used to be normal to do that. Now you wouldn't even hear of that happening.
Oh,
no chance that would happen. And that was part of the culture of athletics. Even in other sports, like there was a story of this during like the early 20th century. There was this Olympic long jumper, and he was before his jump, he was having a cigar and a glass of brandy. And then, he was having a cigar and a brandy. And then they said to him, okay, it's your turn to jump. He put his cigar and brandy to one side, limbered up, and then did his jump, came back and carried on with his cigar and brandy afterwards. But you wouldn't see, like, Greg Rutherford before the Olympics just sitting there with a cigar in his hand and stuff like that.
Oh,
the only sport you can get away with doing that, like drinking, is probably darts.
Yeah.
But even darts, they're trying to make sure they're a bit more agile now.
Yeah, I mean, and that, to be fair, that's barely a sport anyway. I'll be honest. If there's one sport that white people can get, like, you guys can keep that. It's like
keep darts.
Well, that's it. But it was bringing back to my earlier point, in that and there's a guy called Dr. Dan Kilvinston from Leeds Beckett University. He is the expert really in terms of the research, in terms of the lack of South Asian footballers that are being given opportunity. It's just to tie that in from last time, is that the only thing keeping them out of the sport is racism. That's it. I mean, there's no physical aspect, there's no cultural aspect, because more parents are supporting their kids getting into football. You know, the athletic ability, it's there. I mean, there's different body types in football. You know, even different. And not just exclusive to football. I mean, rugby and basketball. I mean, rugby. A hooker is going to have a different body to like I don't know the term, but like
a prop or something like that. They have a completely different style.
Exactly, and to be fair, that's why I think a lot of these stereotypes, a lot of these racial stereotypes stigmatise on certain people. Even if it's complimentary, it can be harmful. Because,
of course it can.
Yeah, because the fact is, if you were to say that, black people are very good as athletes, that means that that is saying that no, they can't get into a place of intellect, which is why a lot of black footballers find it difficult to transition into becoming managers and other people. And the same thing, like if you're saying that Asian people are very good at business, but I'm going to quote this, by the way. This is from because we talked about how the racial hierarchy was quoted from Voltaire in the 17th and 19th century. He said that Indians were hardworking but unimaginative.
Yeah.
Just original, right? That obviously that's harmful. So what is that saying? You're saying that, you know, they're not good enough to be athletes, they can't be leaders, and that's just an absolute nonsense. Because if that was the case, well, first of all, like the amount of self-made billionaires that come from the Indian subcontinent is just vast. And secondly, if you think that's true, go to any place in Birmingham, go to any boxing gym in Leicester, go to any go anywhere where there's a high population of Indian and Pakistani lads training in a boxing gym. Mate, they will embarrass you so badly, smack you up so hard. Like honestly, you'll never say that racist shit ever again.
Yeah.
But
I mean, to say Indians aren't imaginative, just look at Bollywood.
Yeah, exactly. Like those guys are ripped. Like even Danny Boy had said it himself. Like when he was making Slumdog Millionaire, he went to India and he was casting from there, and he looked at his casting agent. He went, no, I can't take any of these guys. Like, well, why? What's the problem? He's like, they're all huge. These guys have got spikes. They're good looking. They're athletic, but these guys look like fucking. They look like fitness models. Like
that's it.
They're supposed to be a loser.
It doesn't really go with a slum dog if he's like ripped, like like a bodybuilder. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just that's why he ended up getting Dev Patel. Yeah,
Dev Patel. Yeah.
I mean, because his daughter was watching Skins, which I hate that program, by the way.
I used to like Skins.
Oh, of course you did. Fuck, every fucker my age looked at it.
Mate, you listen out, mate. Skins was what you watched after In-Betweeners finished.
No, but In-Betweeners was more accurate about our lives, man. I mean, Skins was just shit. It was so bad.
All right, we could get into this then. So Skins was where I'm defending Skins. I was thinking we're podcasting. There's got to be a point where we argue on something, and now we found it. Skins was like you could see it as like an extreme case in many ways, but it was more delved into what mental health problems teenagers go through, drug problems and issues. Especially the first two series. After that, it got shit. But the first two I thought were very good.
See, everyone always says that. They're like, "Oh yeah, I didn't really like the other seasons, but the first one was the first one was terrible as well." In fact, you had a bunch of sexed up teenagers that all trying to be very working. They're trying to be very working. They sounded like a bunch of rupees.
Oh yeah, they weren't working class at all. These kids.
Oh, it's just like, what the fuck? Like, first of all, that's just. I mean, like, just the dialogue didn't make sense. I mean, there was one where two fucking. I glanced over it, but it was like having an argument about some fucking shit. So before I'd fuck with the tall guy who's now.
Oh yeah.
And his response was, "Oh, every time you talk, little bits of spit are getting in my face." It's like, that's not how people talk, you fuck.
Yeah, that's how kids talk.
Like this. I'm like, honestly, if there's an argument, it's like, get out of my fucking face, stop spitting at me. Like, that's more real. And it's just, it missed that, and it was just like, it was dumb. And it was supposed, I think it's supposed to start out as a comedy, but then I'm talking to people who loved it, and like, it's not a comedy. I'm like, who knows what the fuck this is?
Well, it's a weird one, Skins, because how it started off, I thought it was a comedy when I first watched it. I thought, because the first few episodes, there was some funny bits. It was like a dark comedy. But then as it went on, they started to tackle more darker themes. And then I think by like season 4, it was just all dark. And then it just became, it just didn't seem appealing anymore. But it was just like, I think because in a way we were quite lucky though, because we were at school when these shows came out, and especially In-Betweeners. Because
well, I'm gonna have to take your word for that, only because I think I took it out after the first episode, but I was seeing it now and again. But I think the other problem was, I think representation was an issue. Like, I didn't see any. I didn't see my experiences in that.
Well, Dev Patel was there. We had the token Asian kid.
Yeah, what the fucking kid. There were no Guz Khans. There was no Man Like Mo Bean.
No, you didn't see any of that. But one thing I did like about it, in a way, about Skins, is because they had the token Asian kid, and he did touch on things because I think he was meant to be Muslim, so he did touch on that type of stuff, like being Muslim, modern day, whatever. But then he wasn't like your nerdy little Indian kid that we used to see in TV shows, especially in England, that we used to see. Like, he was just a normal guy who just wanted to drink and fuck. That's what he was. And that's why I thought it was so cool to finally see one of us be normal. Whereas before, we'd always be the nerdy kid. We'd always be like, the goody two-shoes. That's what we'd be portrayed as.
See, I think in terms of that, that is better. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it comes back to the point of, I think we talked about last time, is that if you've got no people behind the camera, not just in front, but behind the camera that can relate and live these experiences, then what you're going to get is going to be completely false, and it's not going to resonate, because how would it? I think what Guz Khan has done with Man Like Mo Bean.
I love Man Like Mo Bean.
Oh, it's amazing. It's the most, even though it's a comedy, it's closer to just the working South Asian experience in this country. Like, it's so close. And this is the problem. In this country, like, we tend to think in terms of social class, in terms of there's working class, middle class, upper class, and we tend to think about it that way. And we tend to think of, when we think working class, we're just thinking white people.
No.
Yeah, the problem with that is, if you actually look at the social classes in this country, the most ethnically diverse group, social class, is the working class.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
You guys, honestly, the one thing America has better than us, I mean, in terms of their social issues, there's a lot of problems. They have a history of Jim Crow laws and,
of course,
all that other horrific shit. I mean, even the modern day with like police brutality and what Donald Trump has been doing with internment camps on his border.
Yeah.
The one thing that they've got that we don't, they have affluent middle class Black and Latino neighborhoods.
Yes, they do.
We don't have that. And if you go to any South Asian or Black area in this country, they're working class, they're hoods.
We do have a few, like Odeby in Leicester, which does have certain, but they're very few and far between, but they're not massive. And it'll maybe be like one street, maybe. It's not massive.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, we do obviously we have middle class Black and Asian people in this country.
Yeah.
But, Odeby, everyone always uses Odeby as an example, but
because it's the only good street in Leicester.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, it's so posh, but even with Odeby, like, even though there's a high South Asian population there, it's still a majority white area. You're still talking.
Oh yeah, if you go to certain areas, it still is.
It's 60-40, so it would still be considered, even though it's very middle class and a high Asian population, it's still a majority white area. I mean, what we don't have, we don't have a place that we could climb up and aspire to.
Yeah,
it just makes sense.
That's why shows like Man Like Mo Bean and stuff like that are so important. And they're not just good; they're important shows. Oh, it's like if you go to places like Birmingham, or if you go to places like Wolverhampton or Walsall, and you realise just how real Man Like Mo Bean actually is. You realise that there are people literally like this, but people outside of it don't realise that.
And not even just our generation. I mean, though the previous generation worked in that class areas, and you had them you had the Yardies and all sorts of the Rude Boys and all that, and they had that subculture, right? And which influenced along what we have now. And the fact is that with the South Asians, even though we have this stereotype, especially British Indians, of being climbers and being, very ambitious, which it's still a stereotype, because many people still live those working class lives. And to be fair, any opportunities we have, our generation, whether it's Black, Asian, or whatever, that's all based on all the hard work that many people during the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s fought for.
That's it.
My granddad, he came here in 1958 to work the foundries in the West Indies, And the fact is that a lot, from my own research, a lot of people from South Asia that came during that time, and even the Caribbean, right? So many Afro-Caribbeans, they came thinking that they were going to be treated like heroes. That this is the land of opportunity. streets are paved with gold, and a
Well, that's
lot of
how it
people.
was sold to them in many ways.
Exactly. And to be fair, I think that's something. If you ask many Indians that, well, they still think that way. You know,
Yeah,
that oh, England's like the promised land.
it's like
But
yeah, but it's like because a lot of them didn't really want to be here. They came because of the opportunities. Like, what is it? But not a majority of Pakistani and North Indian, specifically Punjabi immigrants,
yeah,
came here in the 50s,
yeah,
and like my family came in from the 50s, usually the 50s and 60s,
yeah,
because they'd suffered partition and life after partition. It was shit. It
yeah,
was shit after partition, you know, because it's like there was like there's a new border that's been created. There's no jobs.
yeah.
It's kind of like martial law everywhere for like a good 10 years after. A lot of people don't realize that after partition, it wasn't all hunky dory. You
No, it
know,
wasn't.
it
It
was
was.
really crap. So they were like, well, there's got to be something better than this.
Well,
And then that's it.
yeah, well, it's the biggest human displacement and refugee crisis in known history. Like
Yeah.
like it's never been topped, the amount of people that were killed and were displaced and really were made refugees after the partition. Like from both sides, both my mum and my dad's side of my family, they've got
Yeah.
horror stories of the partition as well. And
Yeah, we
a lot,
were affected as well now and from
yeah,
partition. It's just
and
horrible.
I think a lot of the inter-ethnic tension between Pakistanis and Indians from that era. You talked about Muslims and Hindus. They were all friends. They were all brothers.
They were all friends at one point, but then they were divided on religious grounds, and that's basically. There's loads of theories as to why it was done. The easy one is that it was because they wanted a separate Muslim nation, the two-nation theory. That's one of the theories. But then there's loads of other ones, like there was Churchill's plan to create Pakistan so that Britain could still have an influence in the region.
Yeah.
And then there's so many things around it. But at the end of the day, it was the innocent people who suffered on both sides that suffered.
Exactly. And I mean, this is why I don't buy into that type of rivalry. Like I don't
No.
like that's like, you know what, that's the older generation. Fuck it.
Yeah.
That's
like,
rubbish. You know, and you know what, fuck it. Like we're outliving them anyway, so who gives a shit about their opinion.
It's like my grandma watches Pakistani soaps. She doesn't
Yeah.
watch the Indian ones because you said they're over the top, but she watches the Pakistani ones because they stick to the point. So
Yeah.
she actually watches those. She says like, "Oh, these Indian ones, it's like just breaking the song too much. There's just too much shit going on. So I just watch these ones. They're better."
That's hilarious, man. But yeah, I mean, the fact is that a lot of what we're living through, I mean, that has all had a historical impact on us. You know, something that we're still living to this day. I mean,
Yeah.
Going back to my point about the 50s, about South Asians and the Afro-Caribbean community moving in this country, many of them actually served during the World War, like during the World War. So they really did think they were going to be treated like heroes because they fought for the country. But
Yeah.
as it came, they were like, "Oh, it's cold and everyone's racist and hates me." And even though there was loads of jobs, like it was still being discriminated against. I mean, many Sikhs, probably in your family, probably had to shave their beards and like.
My granddad had to. Yeah, when my granddad came to this country, he became a bus driver, and he had the full turban beard and everything. But he wouldn't get a job until because they were saying like you need to assimilate, you need to look as Western as possible, and so he shaved his beard, got rid of his turban, and then it was only like it was like 20 years later that the British allowed people with turbans and beards to go on to be bus drivers. But at his time, when he came in, he wasn't allowed to have that.
Yeah, and that is so horrific. I mean, it's
when you think that you have to change your identity to get a job.
Yeah.
And we moan about a CV.
Yeah.
I was about to say, have you got any lighting or anything? Because I could barely see you.
Right. Sorry, I've just sorted myself out now.
Yeah. That's all right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's the exact thing. It's just employers could easily discriminate for just because they felt like it at the time, and that is actually what created movements like the Indian Workers Association. You know, you're talking about Black Sisters of Southall. There was, the British Black Panthers, where it had many Afro and South Asian members. We had like even the first labour strikes were actually arranged and spearheaded by working class South Asian women.
Yeah.
You know, place in is it Brunswick? I think it's Brunswick, where during 1976, many South Asian working class women actually staged a walkout and did this because the place that they were the factory they were working in, they wanted better pay, they wanted a pay rise, so they were getting paid equal fair share, so equal pay, also to stop the exploitation of many migrant workers, which was something that they could do. And politically, I think our generation owes that generation a debt, because often people always tend to think, oh, well, you know, many South Asian people, the older generation, they kept their head down and, you know, don't cause any trouble, which for the most part is true. Like, you ask any generation that came from Jamaica or like Pakistan, Bangladesh or India, they had that mentality of don't cause any problems, don't ruffle any feathers, just work hard, you'll reap the rewards, right?
Yeah.
But there were moments where where action was called in, where they did have to fight for their rights. And
there's only so much shit you can take until you react.
Exactly. And for a long time, actually, that's why a lot of the South Asian and Black communities, I'm not sure about London, but in the West, in the Midlands in particular, they were very close. Like they were very united. Even like the Irish community.
Yeah, because they were getting the same shit that we were getting.
Exactly. They were white, but they were the wrong type of white.
Yeah.
You know, that's how they were classified.
Yeah.
And you know, even that traditional racial hierarchy that was created, like during the 18th century, what Irish people weren't actually considered white people.
Yeah, we should discuss it as it's eugenics, and that was basically it horribly fell into evolution. It was like say like social Darwinism. It was basically that certain races have evolved better than other races. That's what it came into. And Irish people, even Cockneys, they even looked at Cockney as a separate race when it came to that. It was weird how they did it.
Yeah, it wasn't based on anything. Nothing. Like, and a lot of these so-called pseudo academics, they never left the university. They never left the university campus. They never met people that they were categorizing.
Yeah, no. They just based it off their own thing.
Exactly. But I digress. But yeah, I mean, for a long time that was happening because marginalized groups were fighting for the same rights. You know, we took on each other's battles. We took on each other's. You know, I think we're talking about the West Midlands. There was the bus service, the bus companies. There was a period where they weren't hiring Indian or Pakistani, South Asian bus drivers. They're like, no, we don't want them. They're not the right sort. A lot of the Afro-Caribbeans, they stormed out. They did a strike, and it the same with us. Like, it was a two-way thing. Like, we fought for their rights too, and it's like we helped each other. That's why the term to be politically black, that's where it came from.
Yeah.
You know, and even the term BAME right now, I think it was created during the 70s. It was a unifying thing. Black, for those that don't know, that's Black, Asian, and minority ethnic.
What's your opinion on the whole BAME thing, like being categorized as BAME? What's your opinion on that?
I think when it comes to shared experiences and shared problems that can be quantified in data, I think that in itself is useful. I don't think that's problematic at all. Because if we have shared experiences, the term BAME is useful.
Yeah.
When talking about individual issues, or to identify someone as an individual, then I think it becomes a little problematic.
Yeah.
You know, I am not a BAME person. I am a British Indian Hindu Punjabi. Try saying that 100 times. Right, but I'm also working class as well, which is another thing. But I'm more than just what I look like. But yeah, like, my experiences are very similar to other South Asians. They're very similar to other Black people, but they're not the same.
No.
And I think that's where the problem comes in. And I think when you use the term BAME when there's an issue with the Black community, that's a problem. When we use BAME with the Asian community, that's a problem. Because there's a lot more similarities than differences.
Yeah.
But the differences are significant and they are important.
Yeah.
You know, for example, I've never had an issue people wanting to touch my hair. Like, that's people have never wanted to.
Yeah, I've never had that either.
Like, in terms of criminality, in Leicester, I've never been stopped and searched.
No.
Right, that's not something I've suffered in Leicester. But I have had other things like public transport is an issue, especially if I'm carrying a bag. I've had that where going up and down London, where that's been something I've had to be mindful of. In terms of, well, there's a new horrific stereotype that's happening in the north of England, which is just horrifying. I mean, a lot of the grooming gangs that have happened right now.
Yes,
which is
unfortunately, some of it is true, but
Yeah.
it kind of affects all of us in the terms of that we all get lumped in with it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing is that I absolutely disgusted with what happened. I think the fucking guys are scumbags and deserve to be buried underneath the prison.
Of course.
The stereotype that, and it's not just British Pakistani, because
No, the last one they got, a couple of them were Indians.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, the horrific thing of anyone with brown skin and straight black hair, just in the north of England, maybe being a potential paedophile.
Yeah,
that is horrifying, and that is not something that I want to touch to me. I don't think any person does. But the point I'm trying to make, without too extreme, is that I think we have shared experiences. We have more similarities than differences.
Yeah,
but the differences are important and they should be addressed. And because the fact is that in the Premier League, British black footballers are overrepresented. They're doing quite well.
Yeah.
Within other sectors like the finance sector and many of the other STEM fields, they're not being given the same crack at the whip. Same with us, is that in terms of business, we tend to be doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
In terms of athletics, we're not being given the same chance. But the thing that unites us is our representation within the media, our opportunities in terms of just the arts, just in terms of the fact that we are marginalised. We're not, in terms of societies, that we're not considered as one of the boys. We're not in some ways.
We're not part of the boys' club yet.
Yeah, there's still a stigma that we're visitors. And I'm talking about the most extreme racist. And I mean that's where I stand. I think if you use it contextually, if in context, BAME in itself isn't a problem.
Yeah.
But it has to be within the right context. Don't call someone a BAME person. Don't call, because what does that mean? It's just that isn't useful. But when you say that BAME individuals are targeted, Black, Asian, and ethnic minorities, where that's a shared common problem, where we're being affected by COVID-19 at a much higher rate, then I think that is useful. So it's all about context, really. So I'm not in the camp of it's 100% bad or it's 100, it's fine. I'm somewhere in the middle. It's context. So
Okay, I think that's a good note. We'll leave it on BAME. Which is always good. Thanks for having another crack at this, Raj, even though last time we fucked it towards the end. But that was all down to my shit internet connection, but luckily it's managed to hang in there today. And I'd love to have you on again, because that was very interesting.
Can I just make one last point?
Go for it.
Okay, because I remember you asked me about my background, and I think I got halfway through. In that, I'm a filmmaker and a director from Leicester, and I've been doing it for 4 years. Before then, prior, I was actually a freelance floor, so I was getting experience, basically getting people teas and coffees, and that led me into opportunities on traineeship on Fresh Meat with Jack Whitehall, and the Channel 4 TV program, and also that led me to an opportunity to freelance on Coronation Street as well, which was amazing.
Yeah, well, that was been cool.
The reason I stopped doing those jobs is because one day a director actually pulled me aside. He said, Raj, so what do you actually want to do? And I looked at him. I said, well, I want to do your job. I want to be a director.
Yeah.
And it's on this set of Fresh Meat, and he looks at me. He says, and I'm not saying this verbatim. I'm paraphrasing. He says, Raj, mate, the best way you can do it, you just got to make films. You just got to do it.
Just do it.
You can't. You said you can't be here. You'll be a first AD, which is a guy with a clipboard keeping on. Maybe a producer, but you'll never be a director. He said, you've got to start making films. You can't be here. So for
Probably
me,
the best advice he gave you.
Exactly. And I was at a crossroads. It's like, either I continue this, have fun, earn money while I'm doing this, but end up in a position where I don't want to be.
Yeah.
Or take a gamble, take a risk on myself, start all over again, start at the bottom, start being a filmmaker being a storyteller that I want to be. And I made that decision. I never looked back. So I think the reason I clarify this is because if anyone's watching, I would say if you want to do anything, I'd say just give it a go. Just do it. Don't let doubt stop you. You know, I mean, failure is a temporary thing. So anything that you want to do, just do. You know, just give it a go. You know, because it's your life and you deserve to be happy. So yeah, that's all. That's what I want to point out.
Wise words. Yeah. Okay, well, that's a better thing to finish on, actually. Yeah, we'll finish on that one. Yeah, I'd love to have you on again. Yeah,
mate, love to be back, mate. It's been so much fun. It's been such a talking tonight.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because you can't see this, but I've actually got work computers behind my laptop here. But soon, they're going to be taking us back to the office. So I'll get rid of those, which means I'll have more space, which means I can get some more, because I've got a XLR mic, but I need a condenser and another mic. And that way we can have actual podcasting face to face. So that'd be pretty cool. So once that's done, we can get going there. But even if it's just a Zoom one, yeah, we could do this again, definitely.
Mate, fantastic, man. Mate, I'd love to be back. Please invite me again, because I'll definitely do it. I'll do as many of these as I can.
Yeah, I'm sure you got plenty more to say. All right. Okay, I'm gonna do this bit now where I say goodbye, which means I just end the recording, but we can still have a proper goodbye afterwards. All right. Okay, cool. So, before I do that, where can people find you, Raj?
Okay, so if you want to follow me on Instagram, my professional handle is Rajnish Sharma Films. That's also the name of my Twitter account as well. And if anyone's got Vimeo, just type me on Rajnish Sharma, and you'll be able to see my show reel and a lot of the other stuff that I'm doing. Also on a shameless plug, if anyone is looking for any gigs or any particular events that they need filmed, something basic camera work, I am available. So yeah,
I'll put all your links in the description below. But all right, so thank you, Raj, and speak to you soon.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for having me.
Bye bye.